She knew, even before she stepped into the ballroom, that she did not belong there. The chandeliers above her glowed like captured stars, their light spilling across marble floors polished by centuries of privilege. Silk skirts whispered, diamonds winked, and laughter floated effortlessly from lips that had never learned restraint. And there she stood, Eliza Hartwell, in a plain, white gown stitched by her own hands, her gloves mended once too often, her name spoken only in small rooms where dreams were allowed but rarely fulfilled. She had come not to dazzle, not to conquer, but simply to survive the evening without being seen. She did not know that fate, impatient with modest plans, was already watching her from across the room. Eliza entered on the arm of her aunt, Mrs. Whitcomb, whose expression carried equal parts pride and warning. "Head high," her aunt whispered, eyes calm. "You are not lesser because you own less." Eliza nodded, though her pulse betrayed her courage. Every step felt like an intrusion. She felt the weight of glances slide over her, dismissive, curious, uninterested. No one stared long. Plain gowns did not invite attention at the Duke of Ashbourne's annual winter ball. This night was meant for strategic smiles and fortunes wrapped in lace. Across the ballroom, Nathaniel Blackwood, Duke of Ashbourne, stood surrounded yet utterly alone. England's most desired duke, young, impossibly wealthy, devastatingly composed. Women watched him the way sailors watched the horizon, with hope sharpened by desperation. Yet Nathaniel felt nothing. He had danced this dance for years, alliances disguised as affection, admiration hollowed by ambition. Tonight promised no difference, until without intention his gaze shifted. She was not shining. She was not laughing loudly. She was standing near a gilded pillar as though it were an anchor, her hands folded, her eyes taking in everything with quiet wonder. There was a stillness to her, a sincerity that felt almost rebellious in that room. Nathaniel frowned, not in disapproval but confusion. Why did his attention refuse to move on? Why did the noise of the ballroom dull the moment he looked at her? Eliza felt it before she saw it, the sensation of being observed with purpose. She turned slowly and met his eyes. The room did something strange then. It did not vanish, but it softened like a painting viewed through water. She recognized him at once. Everyone did. She dropped her gaze instantly, heat rushing to her cheeks. Dukes did not look at women like her, and yet when she dared glance again, he was still watching. Nathaniel excused himself from a countess mid-sentence. Murmurs rippled behind him as he moved, not hurried, not hesitant, straight across the ballroom. Conversation stalled. Fans paused mid-flick. No one could remember the last time the Duke of Ashbourne crossed a room for anyone. Eliza felt her aunt stiffen beside her. "Eliza," she breathed, "don't panic." Too late. He stopped. Before her, close enough that she could see the faint scar near his jaw, the seriousness in his eyes that softened when he spoke. "May I have this dance?" His voice was calm, but there was something else beneath it. Certainty. Eliza's first instinct was to refuse, not out of pride but fear. Yet something in his expression made lying impossible. She placed her hand in his. "Yes, Your Grace." As they moved onto the floor, whispers followed like shadows. She was aware of every misstep, every breath. But Nathaniel danced as though the rest of the room had dissolved. He did not perform. He listened. "You look as though you'd rather be anywhere else," he said gently. She surprised herself by answering honestly. "I was. And now?" She hesitated. "Now I'm curious why you asked." He smiled. Not the practiced curve of society, but something real. Because everyone else was trying too hard to be seen. You weren't trying at all. The orchestra swelled. Eliza felt something loosen inside her chest, a quiet joy she had never permitted herself to feel. For those few minutes she forgot the plainness of her gown, the smallness of her fortune, the narrowness of her prospects. She was simply a woman being chosen. When the dance ended, he did not release her hand immediately. "Will you walk with me?" he asked. And in that moment, Eliza understood that this night, this choice to attend it all, had altered the course of her life forever. Behind them, envy sharpened, rumors ignited, and alliances trembled. Ahead of them lay a story no one could yet name, but one England would soon whisper about for generations. And if you're feeling the pull of this moment already, if stories of quiet, courage, and unexpected love speak to you, make sure the days following. The ball unfolded like a dream. Eliza feared to touch lest it vanish. London whispered her name in drawing rooms where it had never been spoken before. Some said it with curiosity, others with envy sharp enough to wound. A girl in a plain gown did not dance with the Duke of Ashbourne, and simply returned to obscurity. Yet Eliza tried. She returned to her modest routine, to mornings scented with ink and bread, to evenings of quiet reading. Only her thoughts betrayed her, returning again and again, to the warmth of his hand and the way his eyes had searched hers as though he had finally found something honest in a world of mirrors. Nathaniel, for his part, was restless. Titles and estates had always obeyed him. His heart did not. Every social obligation felt heavier now, every calculated conversation more hollow. He found himself comparing voices to hers, laughter to her soft smile, ambition to her sincerity, and each comparison failed. Against reason, against expectation, he sought her out. When his carriage stopped before her aunt's modest home, society's rules screamed in protest. Dukes did not call on women without fortunes. Eliza answered the door herself, breath catching at the sight of him. He stood there without grandeur, no entourage, no performance, just a man with something to say. "I hoped," he said quietly, "that you would walk with me again." They walked through a small garden where roses bloomed without permission, their scent thick with summer. Here, without chandeliers or judgment, conversation came easily. He asked about her books, her childhood, the dreams she never spoke aloud. She told him the truth, that she wanted a life where kindness mattered more than rank, where love was not traded like currency. He listened as though these words were rare treasures. But the world was not listening. Rumors grew darker. Mothers tightened their daughters' smiles. Advisors warned Nathaniel of consequences. Political alliances undone. Expectations shattered. He was reminded daily of his duty. And yet, when faced with the choice between approval and authenticity, his resolve hardened. The final test came at a grand assembly meant to announce his future, an engagement everyone assumed would secure power and legacy. Eliza attended only because she was asked, unaware of what the night would demand of her heart. As the crowd gathered, Nathaniel stood before them, eyes searching until he found her. Once again in a simple gown, once again unassuming, once again extraordinary. "I was taught," he said, voice steady, "that love is secondary to duty, that a duke must choose wisely, not bravely." The room held its breath, but I have learned that true wisdom requires courage. And love, real love, does not shout. It waits. He crossed the room. Again. And this time no one dared whisper. He took Eliza's hand. "I choose her," he said. Not despite her simplicity, but because of it. Shock gave way to silence, silence to awe. Eliza's eyes filled, not with disbelief, but recognition. She had always known her worth. She had simply waited for someone else to see it too. Their future was not effortless. It was earned through patience, resilience, and an unyielding belief that love rooted in truth could withstand any storm. And in time, England would speak of the Duke who defied convention, not for scandal, but for sincerity. Eliza Hartwell never wore jewels brighter than her integrity, and Nathaniel Blackwood never ruled more wisely than when he chose love over expectation. If this story moved you, if you believe quiet, strength can change destinies, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories where hearts, not titles, shape history. Because sometimes the greatest love stories begin with someone brave enough to wear a plain gown and walk into the light.